Most people, what they do is they build a business and their business ends up becoming a trap because they build this big monster and then they squeeze their lives in a crack. And what happens is they build what we call another glorified 9 to 5 job where they can't really break away from the business. They're literally trapped to the business, and in order for them to survive, they have to put all this work, all these hours into the business, and they can never escape. Now, what I've discovered what works best for individuals and business owners who actually want to create freedom is that they design the life that they want to create first. This is why we call it freedom by design. We're running a business that requires us to be able to make money. All we did was create another 9 to 5 job for ourselves. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull the curtain back on the exact system that has allowed so many entrepreneurs to break free who are selling high ticket offers. And I'm going to break down one of the biggest frustrations that we see in today's market, especially with what's going on. What most people do is when they have to sell a high ticket offer, they have to get on these sales calls on Zoom. They spend hours and hours every single day on sales calls convincing people that they should buy their offer. And here's the thing that's really frustrating is because you get on these sales calls and people will act like they're ready to move forward, but then they never pay the invoice when you send it. Or the bigger frustration is they ask for follow-up call after follow-up call, and you end up having 2 or 3 sales calls with these individuals, and you feel even more trapped because in order for you to make money, you have to actually be the one that is showing up. And what's that doing is that's actually removing the leverage that we're supposed to create. We're supposed to leverage systems. Systems stands for save yourself time, energy, and money. And so when I'm building my business, I have to be able to implement these systems so things can be activated and things can operate without me not having to be involved. When we're starting our business, it's pivotal for us to be involved because we do have to set the foundation. But it comes down to you actually figuring out what are the high leverage activities that you need to be spending time on that actually produces more income, so now you can get more freedom and reinvest into the system so that way your business can operate without you being involved. Now, the first thing that you must do is you must remove the trap of having to spend all this time on sales calls because sales calls are draining your time. And yes, it might seem as though it is a high impact activity, but let me break down exactly what happens when you remove sales calls and you leverage what we call a one-to-many selling system that allows you to essentially do multiple sales calls at one time. Imagine if you compress 20, 30 sales calls into 1 hour or 2 hours and you just have this call with everybody, because all you're doing is repeating the same information over and over again to people anyways. But I want to show you the system that we're actually using that has generated over 8 figures in sales for our customers that you can actually plug into your business, and you'll be able to get more high ticket customers, more customers that you actually want to work with, and you actually also get more leverage for your time so that way you get more freedom. Now let me show you exactly where the leverage is broken in your business, right? If we don't have leverage, then we don't have systems. Let me show you exactly what's broken. So typically, let's say you have 20 sales calls in a week, which is pretty normal for most founders. In fact, you're probably someone who has 20 sales calls per week right now. In fact, this is actually probably pretty low for a business that's making over 10K per month. And so the reality is you set all this time to the side for you to take these sales calls. But the first thing that happens is half of these people don't even show up. And we know how we operate. If we set off time for people to come onto a sales call, it's not like if they don't show up, we find ways to be more productive during this time. In fact, most of us are pissed off. And so we just spend this time complaining and upset because these people chose to book time on our calendar. We didn't ask them to book call. They booked time on our calendar because they were interested in our services and they didn't even show up. So that wastes 10 hours of my week right there. Let's say we do have these 10 phone calls with the people who do decide to show up. The reality is most of these people aren't going to have the money to invest. So that wipes away half of those sales calls already. So now we went from setting aside 20 hours in a week and we actually only get to have 5 productive hours, right? So 15 hours of our week was wasted. Some of these people aren't going to be ready to buy right now, right? In fact, most of them aren't. Some people are going to say, I need to think about it. Some people need to talk to their spouse. Some people have to go get some money together. So even when we talk to these people, 3 of them aren't even qualified. Like they're not even ready to move forward, even if they are qualified. Half of the people we did have a sales call with weren't qualified. And then 3 out of 5, right, who were qualified aren't ready to move forward. So I end up having 20 sales calls set to the side, 20 hours of my week, and I get to only close potentially 2 people. Now, some people will be satisfied with this, right? Some people might be okay with it, but I believe you're watching this video right now because you are frustrated with this cycle. Now, let me show you what the new reality actually actually looks like when you implement a one-to-many sales system. Now, what happens when you have a one-to-many sales system, one is you have more scalability, so you don't stop at 20. Because if I double these sales calls, if I double the system, all I'm doing is doubling the amount of hours that I have to set to the side, which restricts my ability to actually be able to grow my business because I'm setting off this time for sales calls. But what we have found is, instead of setting aside individual time periods, imagine if you take the same 20 people and you put them in one Zoom room and you're able to compress all of this into 1 hour. So let's take these same 20 people who get in a room, and now you have a different situation, because now even if you only get 2 people who are ready to move forward, instead of it taking 20 hours of your time, this actually only takes 2 hours. And so what I did was I just compressed time. I basically took 20 hours of my time and I did the same activity in just 2 hours. Now the beautiful thing about this is these are real like structure. You got to go in and follow this tough sales scripts and all these things. But this, I actually get to show up and be myself. So not only am I getting more leverage when I do this activity, right? I compressed 20 hours and turned it into 2 hours. I also get to enjoy the work that I'm doing and actually be myself, because no one enjoys one-on-one sales calls. But you getting to actually show your expertise, get in front, provide value to individuals is something that most people will actually enjoy more. Now, here's the real win. I get more leverage, because guess what? If I decide to double this still stays the same. If I double this turns into 40. And so you can imagine how people who are running successful businesses, who's actually getting more freedom, you can only imagine how this person's life is compared to this person's life. And it doesn't stop there, because I can triple this amount, I can quadruple this amount. And guess what? This still stays the same. It's still 2 hours, but guess what? I actually go from closing 2 people to 4 people to 6 people to 8 people. Now let's think about the money math when you think about this situation. See, when you think about a sales presentation, the way it works, and I'm gonna break down the full system right now, is what I like to do is I like to leverage paid ads, all right? And some people use different systems, right? Some people will use paid ads, some people use organic, whatever the case may be. I like using paid ads, right? But let's just say paid ads or traffic. And so I get paid ads and traffic, and then what I do is I turn these eyeballs, people who are actually interested in seeing our offers, I turn these people into registrants. So I turn these into people who actually register for a sales event. Now here's what's really cool about this is because most people are more interested in registering for a webinar or a sales event much more than just a one-on-one sales call. No one really likes one-on-one sales calls. And so if I'm able to run traffic and get people to register for an event, I'm able to get more leads, because it's easier to get leads to register for a sales event than it is to get leads to register for a one-on-one book call. And so now I have my registrants, right? Then we have people on Zoom. And so I'm gonna break down how it goes. So we might spend a certain amount. So I'll give you an example. If I spend $1,000 on ads, and let's say it costs $10 to get an individual to sign up for my webinar, that ends up turning into 100 leads. And so now I have people who I spent money, I got 100 people who were interested in getting the problem solved, right? So now I have more leads for my business. The next step is that of these 100 people, we typically can get about 20 to 25 people, we'll say 20 people to play it safe. We can get 20 people to show up to this Zoom call. From the Zoom call, now we have closed deals. And so the beautiful thing about these closed deals is that I didn't have to get on multiple sales calls to close these individuals. Now, what we see in most situations, if you got 20 people in a room, it's easy to close 10% of the room, right? And so now I have 2 people that I closed on a deal in one webinar. Now, you can do the math, but let's say you have a $5,000 offer. All right, guess what? I basically just turned $1,000 and I turned that into $10,000. Again, I was able to do this by being myself. I was able to have a sales presentation where I gave value to people. I was able to actually get these people and create impact whether they bought from me or not. Now, here's the real win. This is what most people don't realize when you create this type of system, is that even though you spend $1,000, 100 people registered, only 20 people showed up, the beautiful thing is that, one, the 20 people that showed up got massive value. So they built some sort of trust with you. So now it's easier for them to move them forward in the buying process, even if they didn't buy right then and there. So now I have 18 more qualified people I've developed relationships with. The other thing is I still have 80 more leads who are interested in getting a problem solved, who basically reached out to me, sought after me and said, hey, I actually want to join whatever he has. So now my business has additional leads. And so now most people will only focus on these 2 people. But when you create this type of selling system, you actually generated 80 more people who could be interested in working with you later down in the future. And this is how we build a snowball effect for our business to be able to grow, because we're building the amount of leads that we have. We're building more trust with these individuals. So guess what? If we position our offer the right way, we should be solving a problem that they're going to experience until they get this problem solved. So guess what? If they did register for it, they were someone who was experiencing this pain. And a beautiful thing is they were experiencing this pain. They're going to continue to experience this pain until they become a part of these individuals. And so when you think about how I create a scalable business, how I create more leverage, how I'm able to create more freedom for myself and my family, it comes down to me having this ability to compress what used to be 20 hours, 40 hours. I can now compress that into 2 hours and my business sees the same exact impact. So that's exactly how this works, family. Now, if you're someone and you want to figure out what do I actually say, I'm actually going to point you to the next YouTube video where you're going to be able to actually get a deep dive on exactly what do I say when I get people to show up to my sales presentation. So down in the description, you're going to be able to get access to a resource or access to a live workshop where I'm going to break this entire system down. So make sure you like, subscribe, you share this with someone who will find this of value. I see you on the next video, family.